15 years into the program, and the lineage of music continues to grow thanks to cats like Kevin Calabro and the Royal Potato Family, hipping me to rhythmists who came up before there was any kind of codified system on how to play the trap set. And my guest today came up in this milieu and bastion of incredible, authentic rhythm, human rhythm that was dedicated to pulse, tension and release, and dynamics. And a lot of people fawn over his time with Bob Dylan, and rightfully so, but he was definitely in this psychedelic melting pot of incredible free music in the late 60s and early 70s. It continues today with his son, Luther Rix. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thanks, Jake. That was quite an introduction.
Well, I want to ask you. I mean, I've interviewed. I mean, we just lost this amazing drummer, Maury Baker, who used to play with Janis and Tim Buckley, and I remember Dave Getz from Janis and Big Brother. All these guys were art school cats. They came out of art school, so they had a individual approach to playing the trap set. And I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about your educational upbringing, about being educated sort of experientially outside of the academy.
Well, my musical education is a kind of unique story. When I was in the third grade, I really wanted to learn an instrument. And you weren't supposed to be in the grade school band or orchestra until you were in the fourth grade. But I went to the music teacher and I said, I really want to play an instrument. Maybe I could learn to play the violin. I was just, I would have taken anything.
Yeah, you were jonesing for it.
And she said, well, you're not really supposed to. You're supposed to wait till next year, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I really want to. And she said, I'll tell you what. In the orchestra, we don't have a cellist. Would you like to play cello? And I said, sure. And I didn't know what it was. I thought it was some kind of horn.
Wow.
And so
wow.
I started playing cello. She showed me a few things and taught me how to play it badly, kind of like a violin instead of it. That was her instrument. But, I did well at it. And after a while, my next teacher was the principal cellist for the Washington National Symphony. And I continued to do well and won a couple of minor scholarship contests and stuff like that. And I wound up going to music school at Indiana University, which at that time had the world's largest music school, believe it or not. And
I just have to ask you, was David Baker there at the time?
He was.
Yeah.
Although he was not yet the leader of the
Yeah, no, you're talking. I think you might have gone earlier than Booker T and Randy Brecker, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, but they were in school while I was there.
Wow.
Now, so after one semester, even though I was like the new star freshman cellist, I realized it was not for me. And I had always wanted to play drums, and I had fooled around with it in high school and played drums in the marching band and stuff like that. So I changed my major to drums, and I found out that I could do it without losing my scholarships. So, so there I was, a percussion student, not a jazz drum student. There was no teacher for that, but I studied classical percussion. But anyway, yes, I played with Booker T and with Randy. In fact, we both played with Booker T at gigs around the campus.
I mean, this is warming my heart, Luther Rix, because I'm telling you, man, I knew that I was sitting on that you were exactly the Jake Feinberg musician that I love. Because I mean, a lot of cats don't even know that Booker was a bone player, right? He was playing trombone.
Well, actually, believe it or not, his major in music school was theory. Because,
Right.
but yes, he played trombone in the jazz band, and I was never in the jazz band. Big band was not my thing. And
well, I want you to talk about this. Is really important. I mean, just going back to you grew up. Where did you grow up in the D.C. area? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, Northern Virginia, near Washington. My father worked for the Department of Agriculture as an engineer, believe it or not.
Were you aware only in hindsight, or did you realize how incredible even at that time, the extension of musical vocabulary in all genres, even in classical music, when you were playing the cello, was expansive. I mean, obviously you were learning the rudiments, but did you become aware of the fact that you actually were in a very avant-garde period of learning classical music with the cello, even though you didn't pursue it?
I was not doing anything avant-garde. I was learning the Sansoncello concerto and stuff like that.
Right.
But as far as pop music is concerned, I mean, I lived through the transition from big band swing and when I was a child, and show music, that kind of stuff, to rock and roll. I mean, the earliest rock and roll records, the drummers were all jazz drummers.
Absolutely, dude. This is what
Little Richard was playing all that straight eighth note stuff on the piano. All that. The drummers were going ding, 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 ding. That's what they were playing in the background, with 4 on the 4 to make it stronger. So it was a weird time.
Well, no, I mean,
I saw it happen.
Yeah.
I was there when it all happened.
Because a lot of the folk, a lot of the jug band stuff, they might have had a washboard or a wash tub bass or things like that. But I mean, in a lot of ways, like, I'm curious about, were you playing a trap set with Randy and Booker, or were you playing percussion with them around town?
Oh no, I was playing trap set.
Okay, so can you talk about? What were you? You guys? I guarantee, in my mind's eye, you were already cooking original tunes at that time.
I don't believe I had written anything original at that time, but Booker T was doing his tunes and standard R&B repertoire. It was dance gigs. It was like the movie Animal House, where we were the band.
Oh my God, dude! Shamalama Ding Dong. I love that band, dude. So you were playing for frat parties. I mean, it's no different than George Porter, when he was playing with Herbert Wing down in New Orleans. But you were at that. What year was that?
Well, let's see. I started college. When did I graduate from high school? I don't know. I was 18, so it would have been 1950. I started college. 49 or 50. Oh yeah, because I wasn't 18 when I graduated. I was only 17. I skipped second grade.
You mean 1960?
It was 1949 is when I would have started college, and graduated in 53, and then I did a little graduate work. And believe it or not, after college, my first gigs of any note, I had been playing jazz around Indianapolis, which is where I was living at the time. But my first big road gig was Fred Waring and the Pennsylvanians. I don't know if you've even heard that name.
Was that more of like a folk kind of gig?
No, it was a Fred Waring. He was a big deal at one time. Like in the 40s, his group appeared in movies, but his group was a large band, a chorus, and solo singers, and he conducted. Of course, when he started, these bands all had guys who stood out front and conducted for no reason. And so his son, Fred Waring Jr., speaking of trombone players, was at school with me. And he hired me for this gig. It was like 6 months on the road with Fred Waring and the Pennsylvanians. It's just the oddest gig. I mean, not my kind of music at all.
No, I mean, it was decent bread, though, right?
For those days,
yeah, absolutely.
I have no idea. I don't remember anymore what it was, but yeah, I mean, the bread is why I did it. There were a couple of good players in the band, but it was mostly these older guys who, some of them had been touring with Fred Waring for 50 years. This was his 50th year on the road. Just amazing,
I want to be very clear, though, because going back, I don't want to date you too much. When were you born? When was Luther Rix born?
I was born in 1942.
In 1942, so you would have been in college in 1960.
49, because I skipped a year of grade school.
Well, but 49 would have made you 7 years old.
No, I'm sorry. Wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
59.
Yeah, right. So that makes more sense. So
I never think about these things.
No. I mean, this is the Jake Feinberg show at its best. So you essentially, by the time you did a little bit of grad work, but I am really curious about, in Indianapolis, would you go? I mean, was Wes around? Was Freddie Hubbard around? I mean, were you going into the black parts of town to see some of those jazzers play?
Most of those famous jazzers from Indianapolis were hardly ever there.
Right.
And I mean, it was a jazz town at the time, and I knew a lot of really good jazz players. But it was the famous guitar player and his brother were from there. I can't think of the name. Wes Montgomery.
Well, Wes and Buddy and
yeah. And I think Kai Winding was from there.
Kai Winding was from Indy. Yeah, no, Indy was a bastion of melodic improvisation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know that people who carried their own musicians on the road would, they'd be fired for the week that they came to Indianapolis because they knew they could pick up really good players there.
Right.
They were just like guys waiting around for a gig. And, I played at this club that was like the big show club in Indianapolis, off and on for a while. And that was kind of fun. I got to do gigs like the Four Saints, I think they were. One of those quartets, I think it was the Four Saints, who were like really good singers, but also hysterically funny, that kind of thing. And I met Pete Barbuti there, a great comedian who nobody has heard of because he was never on TV, but unbelievable comic. And, just Indianapolis was a fun town. And I played a lot of little jazz gigs here and there. And I knew Dave Baker real well. In fact, believe it or not, I studied drums with Dave Baker for a while because I just wanted to get into his head and, get some of his influence.
Well, I would love – this is making my day because Randy Brecker and Booker, Randy especially, they're good friends of mine. And they rave about Dave Baker. I mean, did he teach you to play with more colors on – I'd love you to talk about how his brain got into your trap set.
Well, he would think up things for me to do that were not idiomatic. You know, I mean, he would just say, do these 4 notes. For instance, here's a practice exercise. Just play bass drum, small tom, large tom, snare, small tom, large tom, bass drum. Play that over and over in the rhythm of the melody, the straight note chaser.
Wow.
So we're just like that. It's just like it would like make you coordinate the rhythm that you were playing with a completely different rhythm, and it was good. That kind of thing was good training for just superimposing stuff. Yeah, I mean, what I had to learn about bebop, which was that was still modern jazz when I started learning to play jazz on the drum set. Because really all I had played before I started getting serious about it in music school was swing gigs, because I was doing, weddings and bar mitzvahs. Those were the gigs I could get in high school, and a few rock and roll things.
Sure.
So I had to learn to stop playing the bass drum all the time, and it's just a whole different world. But I loved it. It was just like this completely different thing that I could do on drums, and my career. I started out as a jazz drummer, but playing rock and roll gigs with Booker T and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, this is the mill.
And then look, after the gig with Fred Wang and the Pennsylvanians, I did 2 seasons with the Indianapolis Symphony.
Oh my God! You were
as the all-around catch-all percussionist. Like the extra guy. I mean, and that's a hysterical story about how I got that gig. You want to hear it?
Yeah, break it down.
Before I went on the road with Fred Wang and the Pennsylvanians, I auditioned for the symphony. They were looking for a mallet player, somebody to play xylophone, vibes, marimba. And that was not my act, but I had studied it hard in music school. And so, I got a couple of orchestral excerpt books and just practically memorized them. And I played the audition, and I won, mainly because everything they threw in front of me, I knew.
Right, I did. No, I love that. I love the mallets. You mean they were throwing
I get credit for that too. I did my homework.
Sure. No, they were. I mean, they were throwing symphonic pieces at you, and you were knocking it out.
But dig this. That was not when I got the gig, because the orchestra went on strike. So they said, well, we're not going to hire you. We're not going to give you a contract while the musicians are on strike. It was like, yeah. So, I mean, you won't give me a contract that says, if the strike is settled, I've got the gig. No, we won't do that, So I got an opportunity to go on the road with Fred. So I come back, and I find out that they have hired a timpanist without holding auditions in Indianapolis, which is against union rules. It's like bullshit. And they got this guy who was a Hanger student, who, as it turned out, in the long run, I hated the way he played.
But, dude, he's also being that's ridiculous. They gave him that gig.
But
yeah.
Anyway, that was my act. In classical music, that was what I preferred to play. And I went to the union and I said, look, I already won an audition there on an instrument that's not even my instrument. And then an opening came up for something that is my instrument, and they didn't even hold auditions. And the union said, you know what, they got to hire you.
Wow.
So they forced the orchestra to hire me, and so that's why I was like an extra guy, you know. So I played bass drum, I played cymbals, I played snare drum if they needed an extra guy, you know.
Well, hold on. I want to be clear about something. You come back from tour and you're playing like a modified trap set in the orchestra.
Oh no, I played strictly legit percussion.
Right. I'm sorry. I mean, what I meant to say is cymbals, whatever they needed. That was your.
No. Yeah, but not sitting down playing cymbals at a trap set.
Right.
You know, the classical version.
That is awesome. I mean, yeah.
And there were fun moments, you know, and it wasn't a bad gig. It's a drag having to wear a tie every day when you came to rehearsals and all that stuff, but there you go. Well, and, you know, we did a little touring. I got to play at Carnegie Hall with the orchestra and be insulted by a waiter at the Carnegie Deli and the whole New York experience.
Well, no, I mean, this is so beautiful. I mean, I guess what I want, I mean, not that you, I mean, you were really a serious percussionist and player, and yet, going back to IU, I mean, not till 1962 did Berkeley even have a guitar curriculum. There was only 2 jazz programs in the country. It was North Texas and Berkeley. I mean, and like you said, they didn't even have a jazz department at IU. It was basically considered.
Yes, they did.
They did.
But you couldn't get a degree in it.
Because they considered it an illegitimate music or something, right? It was a black music?
I don't know. You know, they hadn't gotten around to it yet, basically.
Can you talk about, in looking back on it, how liberating it was and how it helped you find your individual sound, in that there wasn't a codified curriculum that today it's an assembly line. In Tucson, where I live, the greatest cats, the younger cats, and they're not even playing necessarily always jazz, but the baddest cats in this town dropped out of Berkeley because it's a different. I mean, I just wonder if you feel that your individual sound came from the fact that you were not boxed in to a codified way of doing an art form that is impossible to.
Well, let me answer you this way. I was always catching up, learning to play the drums, because when you start studying at an early age, like I did on cello, you get these chops that are solidly grounded, and by the time you're grown up, they're ferocious. You know, I mean, if you're a dedicated student.
Sure.
I did not have any of that. For me, playing drums was a hobby, and you know, so when I got to be in music school and 18 years old, and found myself, you know, playing with guys like Randy Brecker the next year, I had to catch up quick. So as a result, I didn't have time to do a lot of listening and learning other drummers' styles from records and stuff like that.
Right.
Like everybody else does. And I didn't have a teacher ever on drum set. So I decided what I would play and how I would play it and with who, you know. So I think my style was kind of individual, and I think I brought something of that jazz stuff to rock and R&B later on, and I brought some of the rock and R&B to the jazz things that I did. I think I was like an early fusion guy.
You were, dude, Luther, I'm telling you, man. I mean, you're just getting hip to the Jake Feinberg show, but I am like, to me, you came about at the greatest time in musical history because, essentially you were going, obviously, everybody talks about, Albert Grossman and Bob almost, throwing down when he had a trap set at the drum set at Newport Folk Festival. But, there was a magic to the times that you were playing live, and I'm not talking about Fred Waring and necessarily that stuff, but a lot of the gigs you were on, I don't know if you ever crossed paths with the great drummer Harold Jones, who played with Tony Bennett and Basie, but he talked. I mean, I would love you to talk about how you learned as an artist, really as a player, because for a long time you were, and I'm not talking about the gigs that paid great dough, but a lot of the other kinds of gigs you played, you were playing out of antiquated PA systems. The drums weren't mic'd. You had to create, and I want you to talk to younger cats about this, creating volume through soul and physicality. I just remember Harold Jones talking about playing with an organ and guitar trio, and they had amps, but he didn't, and yet he had to play play with dynamics. And I wanted you to just
listen. Let me tell you about that stuff.
Yeah, please.
One of the first memorable gigs I had in New York was with a group called the Group Image.
That's the word. I want you to break this. This is important for music history. Legendary band.
In my opinion, what can I say? I mean, you talk about loud. If these guys were playing a gig in somebody's basement, they put the guitar amps on 11, like always.
Right. Right.
They were completely nuts, and we didn't know enough to wear earplugs in those days. I mean, my hearing is terrible now. But yeah, so I had to play loud, and I did. But at the same time, even though the settings were loud, it wasn't just always, crazy bashing.
That's what I want you to talk about. Yes, that's
Group Image had different kinds of songs.
Right.
They weren't all loud rock, and they weren't all loud, even if they were rock. You know what I'm saying? It's like
I dig
100%,
man.
Writers, singers, and players. So, and to give them more credit, most of them were really uneducated. I mean, they called me the professor.
You kind of have that, even though you claim you were always behind on the drums. I mean, you do come across as a professorial, very proficient cat. So, I mean, you might not, nobody's going to mistake you for Jack DeJohnette or Elvin Jones, but I mean, you're doing okay.
Well, yeah, and my background was, I mean, who else has a background like that?
No one.
Former cellist, symphony player, I mean, I did, when I was in Indianapolis, I did gigs with the Moiseyev Ballet, shit like that.
You were swinging that ballet hard, man. No, but I mean, Group Image, I mean, first of all, what was that? You strike me as somebody who, your dad being, I mean, so many guys. I remember Charlie Persip, the late great drummer. He told me in a long time ago in one of our interviews, he was like, even when he was on the road with like Dizzy, his dad was like, all right, he's like, Charlie, you got a real job yet? And he's like,
oh, yeah.
And like, and yet, so like Brecker is a good example where, he got immersed in, he eventually went back, he went to Seattle for a while chasing a girlfriend, met Larry Coryell, then he went to New York, got into Radio Registry, and I'm like, I know Luther Rix was marinating in radio registry. I have to believe that you got tapped into that early on in New York.
Everybody was on radio registry. When I was first in town, I said, I don't need an answering service to answer my phone for me, blah, blah, blah. And then I started finding out that I had missed gigs. And then, I found out that if you weren't on registry, you were a pain in the butt, because contractors would have a list of guys that they would give to radio registry, who would call them and find out if they could do the gig and give them the details. And if you weren't on registry, they had to call you personally.
Right. Total pain in the ass.
So you were an extra phone call every time they wanted to book a gig. So I shaped up real quick, I caught on. But yeah, that
well,
was
no, I mean, this is really important for me, is like when Luther Rix comes, obviously Group Image, that was a band, but can you talk, I mean, the studio scene, Buddy Saltzman and, Purdy was there. It was a little before Schwartzberg and Gadd, but, it was already pretty locked down. I mean, can you talk about how you kind of got in? Were you playing jingles and Suds and Duds commercials? I mean, I would love to know some of the early.
Well, what I did most in the studio was commercials.
Wow.
I didn't have the connections for guys who were hiring bands for artists. I recorded with a couple of bands that I played with, because that, it was the guys in the band who were doing the gigs. I mean, doing the recording,
Sure.
But I got into a couple of good jingle accounts, as we used to call them. Producers who would call me, and so I did tons and tons of. I mean, at one point I realized that I had played more than 1,000 commercials.
This is So I also want to be clear. I mean, this is so revelatory for younger cats, because clearly you were doing three gigs a day of jingles, doing Amtrak or Hallmark or whatever it was,
Well, maybe not. I mean that was a period of some years, that I played.
Were you marinating I mean, this is so beautiful, because I mean, Brecker was telling me, you may have a good week with radio registry. Back then, you had a loft in the Lower West Side for $160 a month. You were getting ahead. You were getting ahead as a working musician. I mean, it's fair to say that it doesn't matter. You weren't getting called for, Orange Keep News sessions or, whatever. You found your niche. The cost of living was completely reasonable, and there was so much work for a talented cat like you.
Oh man, the first place I lived in New York, where I was living there with my first wife before we got divorced, and I stayed on. It was in Riverdale, and
wow,
nice neighborhood,
yeah,
and a fairly nice building. And if I got 2 good paying weddings in a month, it paid my rent.
Exactly.
That's how easy it was to live.
Oh my God.
Yeah, can you imagine?
No, I mean I thought you were going to say you were down in Alphabet City with the Youngbloods and Mike Knock and Larry Coryell and those cats. Riverdale's pretty. I mean, it never actually.
It just happened to be where me and Patty, my first wife, wound up searching for a place to live in New York.
Oh, I did.
And it was an easy commute to Manhattan. It's just like over a little bridge and down the highway, But I don't know what to say.
No, I mean,
it really was easy to stay alive, and I could be in a band like the group Image, and still play occasional club dates, weddings and bar mitzvahs, and have my daytimes free to play jingles or whatever. Of course, when I was in the group image, I don't think I was doing much recording yet. But I mean, I had, and as time went by, when I was first in New York, my dream was to find a band that I could be at home with,
Right.
and it would hit and stay popular, and I could have a home with it, And I was just never that lucky, And as a result, what I did do was just be, a freelance drummer, and with lots of different people and lots of different kinds of music. I mean, I got into like a folky thing for a while, just kind of by mistake. I knew this bass player was a friend of mine, and a good bass player who was playing with Mary Travers, and she decided she wanted to try having drums. So,
Who was it, like Bill Takis or something?
Huh?
Who was it, Bill Takis?
No, his name was John Trivers. Sweetheart guy. He moved out to the West Coast after a while.
This is so Mary Travers wanted to incorporate a trap set. I mean, I want to be clear though. Group therapy. Were you guys playing like the Electric Circus, or where were you gigging?
Group image.
Image.
We did play the Electric Circus a couple of times. We played, all the psychedelic kind of clubs.
You never got to Fillmore East or anything, did you? Bill Graham's play.
Yes, we did.
Wow.
We there,
wow.
But only a couple times.
Who were on those bills? Like Jethro Tull?
We were not the big name band yet, except we had a real following in New York. They used to regularly rent out this ballroom. I can't try to think of the name of it. It was one of those ballrooms that was famous from the big band era still,
Right.
And they would just pass out flyers and announce that they were playing there, and the place would be full, And they had their own light show, and it was the best light show ever, much better than the Fillmore. And they had their own management. They had a management department.
Holy cow! It wasn't Roseland. It wasn't the Roseland Ballroom, was it?
Huh?
You don't remember the name? It wasn't the Roseland Ballroom, was it?
No.
Yeah.
Something.
Well, I'm gonna do a deep dive on.
Garden.
Yeah.
I can't call it to mind. I mean, that's what. 50
Were you sharing Bill, like local, not the Fillmore East gigs, but like, were you sharing gigs with like the Fugs, or what were some of the adjacent bands that you'd play these ballrooms, or were you just play for 5 hours at a time?
Man, I don't even remember. Because we didn't do many of those kind of gigs.
Right.
It was always the group image, because like I say, we had a real following, and if they played, for instance, some big club on Long Island, place would be full.
Oh, I love this. I'm a Stony Brook cat, born and raised. You're making, dude, Luther Rix. This is really important. I know you were up in Riverdale, but jazz was always pulling at your heartstrings, and I want to believe that you were heading down to Slugs and the Village Gate when you had some off time to see Tony Williams and Elvin. Can you talk about how you?
I did occasionally, yeah. I remember I saw Tony Williams live a couple times, and changed my life. I mean, changed my drumming life.
Why? Explain why.
I changed my bass drum technique because of watching him. I mean, he was just marvelous, and it was fusion, And he taught me things about playing jazz and things about playing rock, But yeah, he was great. And I remember I think it was at the Vanguard I saw.
You saw like Emergency with Larry Young and McLaughlin, or maybe.
I don't think I saw them live.
Did you get a chance to see
But, I saw Miles live once with Keith Jarrett on piano. Remember that name?
Oh my God! Yeah, dude, of course.
He was marvelous, and I had known him from personal. I just knew people who knew him, and we knew each other. Nice fella, and they were playing, sort of fusion, and Keith was like slamming. He was like the star of the band. I swear to God. On the set break, I was talking to him, and he said, "I hate this crapper doing all this loud shit."
Right. I mean, like I remember Bobby McFerrin told me he saw Miles around that time, and it was like he had Chick on Fender Rhodes, and Keith Jarrett was on Vox organ. It just sounded so out. But yeah, that was the. Would group therapy play like the Cafe Wah, sort of that West Village, Richie Havens?
It's Group Image, not Group Therapy.
I keep saying Group. That was another band. Group Image. Were you that? But that was essentially you had a big following. Did you actually tour domestically?
Tour to Mexico?
No, domestically. Did you actually go on tour of the States?
There was a tour planned while I was with the band, but it never happened. And I thought there were some bad business decisions made.
Right.
They put out an album, and they could have put it on a major label, but instead the producer was starting a new label, and he talked them into putting it on his label, and it didn't get promoted, and blah blah blah, and excuse me,
sure,
to get rid of that spam.
There's all. Not
long after that, I quit the band, and it didn't last long after that.
Yeah, it's always about like, sometimes I don't know if there was a de facto leader. It's just funny that you're bringing this up because I was interviewing a great bass player from a great band, younger band on the West Coast, and he was just talking about how important it is to have a strong leader, so that when the beat meets the street, when the rubber meets the road, tough decisions need to be made. The right decisions are made,
Yeah. Well, this was their management department, But, their management department, and mind you, in those days, I hadn't even tried a psychedelic drug. But believe me, the rest of the guys had, including the management.
Oh, man, they were dosed out of... No, I'm telling you, those ballrooms were awash in psychedelics.
But these guys, they would go to a business meeting with people at Ratner's Delicatessen and throw rolls at each other and stuff like that.
Oh my God!
Yeah, they would take psychedelic drugs and act like a bunch of drunken Shriners. It was really crazy. So in the long run, I think it was doomed to failure, and it did fail. But this is a really important part of Luther Rix's career, and it means a lot to me because for both of my daughters, I played these records relentlessly for them, and I also did a great interview with essentially the figurehead of it all. Bob Duro, Multiplication Rock, Schoolhouse Rock, Grady Tate, Stuart Schwartz, Steve Swallow. Did you know that I played on a few of the Schoolhouse Rock things?
Well, I want the entire breakdown of Luther Rix playing. First of all, like how you even got, because then also there's this other band with a guy I never got to, but was really in the early studio scene, primarily on banjo, was Eric Weisberg, the Trash Can Band.
I know Eric, or I did.
Yeah, right. I mean, you were one of the cats, man. I mean, so break that whole thing down, because the stuff that I'm not.
Well, yeah. I don't remember how I met Bob Duro. I know that it had to do with jam sessions that for some reason I went to at one time up in the, like the Catskills, the nearby Catskills.
Sure.
And, and Bobby was living up there someplace. But, I mean, he had a guy who was his main man, drummer, but it got so when that guy couldn't make it, he would call me, and he knew I could sing. He was familiar with my singing, and he actually had me sing lead on one of the Schoolhouse Rock things.
This is legendary stuff. This is beyond. So I think his main man was Bill Goodwin, but he was probably on the road a lot with.
Oh, that's right.
With Phil Woods, So then Rix would come in and start singing, belting it out with the Schoolhouse Rock. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Well, check this out. Bill Goodwin and I also played with a band with Arnie Lawrence.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Fabulous alto sax player, and wonderful mind. Well, I got to know Arnie because we happened to play together on somebody else's gig one time, and he liked, my thrashing approach to the fusion.
Yeah, right.
And,
Yeah.
So he lived not far from me, up north of the city here.
Sure.
And he was doing some local gigs, and he started using me, and it was really fun. And then he got this free jazz thing happening, and Randy Brecker was involved, and Lou Tobacco.
Oh, my hero! These are my brothers, dude.
And
oh my God! You and Goodwin were playing double drums, or
and Bob DeRoe. And so I had to go on. I went on the road with somebody. I don't even remember what the conflict was, but I was on the road for a while, and Bob DeRoe suggested Bill Goodwin. So when I came back to town, he was the drummer.
Right.
For Arnie. Oh, it's called The Children of All Ages.
Oh my God, dude! I love that record.
You know the band?
I know. I know. Arnie Lawrence was one of the was a master.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was. Like I said, I was always a lousy.
Oh, come on, dude! They wouldn't have had you around if that was
really.
Yeah.
I mean, people would say, well, his style is different from the other guy's style, and I'd be like, yeah, sure it is.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'd take that as a compliment.
Because I had not educated myself in a lot of ways. I didn't keep up with what was current and stuff like that. But anyway.
So you came back and Goodwin was like, "Yo, let's."
What are we talking about? Oh yeah. So I came back to town and Bill Goodwin was playing drums. So Arnie hired me to play percussion and sing on some things because now they were doing free jazz and also some original tunes. So
oh my God.
I have a great picture of that band with me and Bob DeRoe in the back singing into one microphone, and I've got the timbales in front of me.
Oh, this is making my year, dude. This is the greatest. This is what I live for, man.
Well, it's what I lived through.
I think so. With the Schoolhouse Rock sessions, I mean, did that stuff actually make it? Like, did that stuff get onto public television too, or radio?
What? Yeah. It was, just another Schoolhouse Rock track. It was called The Checks in the Mail.
I saw that. The Checks in the Mail.
And, the check's in the mail. The check is in the mail. And, it's about a guy, promising that the check would be there by Tuesday.
Right. No, I get it, man. I love it, dude.
And, I learned something on that. It got to the end of the tune, and, the character had to say something like, the character that I was singing had to speak a line, and the line was something like, well, it's got to be there by Tuesday for sure, And I kept, they kept asking for it to be more extreme. And finally, the producer said to me, Luther, it's a cartoon. so I went like, well, it's got to be there by Tuesday for sure, or something like that. And they said, that's it, beautiful.
The check's in the mail, dude.
So funny.
I mean, would you? Well, there's another band that came along, I believe, after Group Image. I've actually never seen a copy of the record. Is Laramie? This band Laramie, Laramie.
Gosh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, 1970. It says you were in the band.
I'll take your word for it.
So when did Weisberg? I mean, Weisberg was playing bluegrass. It's this trash can band. How did this come about?
I don't know. I never played with them. The trash can band.
I mean, I'm looking at this. Oh, my computer just crashed. Yeah, I'm looking at this amalgamation of cats. If I can get my computer back up here. Here. Let's see. It was you, Weisberg, Duro. I guess. So you primarily did. What was the ultimate decision? Did the studio work dry up at some point, or So it's Lynn Ahrens, Ahrens, George Newell.
Well, first of all, let me say, that I don't remember a lot of the stuff I did.
I am loving this. Dude.
When somebody decides, I'm going to have something called the Trash Can Band, and we're going to go and make a recording, and okay, so I was on the recording, but I'm sure I never did any gigs with them or anything. I don't know if they even did gigs,
Sure.
I have no idea. That I probably just played on the recording. And, there were a lot of one-shot things like that, or people that I did a couple of gigs with, 45, 50 years ago. So, I've played with so many people over the years that it's just, as some of it becomes a blur. But I mean, I had eras in my playing. Like I was saying, I played with Mary Travers for a while, and after a while she got so she really loved having the drums. And I played a couple tracks on the Peter Paul and Mary reunion album, and that led to somebody recommending me for the Bob Dylan Rolling Thunder tour.
Wow.
Wow.
And
so I did that, and that was fun. I did the first, I didn't do the second Rolling Thunder tour, and everybody told me later it was just as well. I didn't miss anything, but the first one was really fun, and I got to meet Joni Mitchell and really enjoyed her performing. She was just somebody who came along for fun, and that led to me being recommended for Leonard Cohen.
Well, I don't want to jump too far ahead here. I think we're going to have to do a set too, because this is like the heaviest part. Actually, I wanted to end this set. I wanted you to talk about. I remember it was just his birthday. Great guitar player who was in Paul Butterfield's band and had his own band, Buzzy Feet, and Buzzy. Buzzy Leinert. We haven't talked about him yet, but Buzzy Feeten was in the studio with Dylan. I think the Highway 61 sessions, and Harvey Brooks also said this to me. I mean, Dylan's style of leadership in the studio or even in rehearsals was he didn't talk a lot. I would love you to talk a little bit about like those early rehearsals. He had a very unorthodox way of getting the sounds that he wanted. Because a lot of times today people are like, yeah, we have to rehearse, and they just rehearse the stuff they already know, and
Well, let me tell you something
Go
about
ahead.
the Rolling Thunder gig.
Yeah.
I was hired at the last minute, and I was playing percussion on that gig.
Sure.
Congas and timbales and cymbals and things. But they had hired some conga player that was a great conga player, but it turned out, if it wasn't really Latin music, he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so, somebody, a friend of mine that was involved in it, actually it was, the musical director for the tour. What the hell?
I should know this too. I don't.
Anyway, he recommended me, and I just stepped in at the last minute. So I didn't get any of the rehearsals hardly.
Wow.
Suddenly I was there for the, and I played on the single from the Desire album.
Wow.
Wow. It was the Hurricane, and
oh my God.
Because the album was almost done, so I only played on a couple of tunes, but that was one of them. And like I say, it was the engineer was like, "Oh, there's a conga player in the band," so I'm right up front in the hits on the hit single. The congas are really up in the mix, which is nice for a change.
So wait, I want to be clear. The Hurricane the Hurricane track on the record is different than the single.
I don't know.
Okay, but because you're telling me you were playing congas, and that was right up front in the mix.
Yeah.
That is beyond. So I mean, you're talking. So you get a call being like, "Yo, this Latin cat, it's not working. We need Rix." Had you ever crossed paths with Dylan before that? Do you remember the first time you actually engaged with him?
First time I ever met him. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, he actually used to see him on the street in the village.
Of course.
But I never had seen him play live, and that was a weird situation because, Dylan was just going around to clubs in the village and looking for players that he liked, because he wanted a large band. He was going to be a different kind of a thing for him, And as he hired people, they would all go around together looking for more players, and more background singers, and
Sure.
So that's the way everybody was hired, including this conga player who didn't work out. So I was the only one that wasn't part of that original thing, But
were you? I didn't realize there were two different reviews. I mean, because there's incredible stock footage of him playing Rolling Thunder tour at the Folsom Field in Colorado. Is there some video footage of Rix on tour with Dylan, or you're not?
All that the western part of there, that was the second part.
That was the second part. So you were out at that point.
Yeah. I did the New England part, but it was like 3 months. 3 months on the road. And Bob was a character, I mean, he one time he would come over to me every week or two, and it was like he felt like he ought to talk to me a little bit.
Right.
And then one time I said, it was getting towards the end of the tour, and I said, I'm really looking forward to be back in my house. And, it'd be nice to be home for a while, And he was like puzzled by that. The idea of somebody, it was like they'd rather not be on the road doing this.
Right.
Really. Because that was like his life, and I never thought about it that way until that moment, But that was what he liked. That was where he wanted to be, It's so weird.
I love that. That's, you know what? Do you think we could do set 2 next week?
I don't see why not, Jake.
All right, we got a lot more to get to, and I will. You do texts, or what's the best way to set it up with you?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you do texting on your phone?
Sure.
All right, so I'll text you. We'll figure out a time, and we'll continue on this journey together. But man, it's
Okay, now the phone we're talking on now is not a cell phone.
what's the cell phone?
The cell phone is 845-893-6605.
All right, Arnie Lawrence. I'm throwing on that Arnie Lawrence stuff right now, dude. This is unbelievable. Thanks for taking the time, Luther. I really enjoyed it, man.
All right, well, talk to you next week.
All right, I'll be in touch.
All right, thanks, man.
Later, man.
Bye-bye.